to know you're glued to share your time with us today on Insight. On Insight today, we'll collapse interview segment and just do discussion and media review segment. On the discussion segment today, we shall be looking at Nigeria as a people, Nigerians living together. Is it possible that if we sustain the diversity we have and make it stronger, we will sustain where we are heading? That will be the focus on discussion segment of the program today. And on the media review segment, what do we have?
Yes, basically on the media review segment today, you know, just as the media functions at the federal level, so do they perform at the state level. And so today we would be looking at media coverage of matters at the state level. Yes, how does the media function at the state level? And my guest is the special assistant to the Akwa Ibom State Governor on media.
I think that segment will quite be interesting.
Very, very explicit.
So
just
what
watch
are
out
you
for
going to
it.
look at?
Basically, we'll be looking into the policy thrust of the government, how well managed their information, the policy of information management and all of that. And then, of course, how the media functions at the state level in this case, yes.
Ultimately, you can't rule out information management in any governance process. Well, that's about that on the program. As I say, up next on Insight is the discussion segment. Thanks for joining me on this segment of the program. When you throw a bomb in the marketplace, the bomb attacks people. The bombs don't know whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whether you belong to PDP, whether you belong to APP, whether you belong to APC and what have you. What the bomb will attack is people. If money is stolen from the nation's treasury, it is people. That money belongs to the people. The money does not know whether it is to serve people across the divide. Now, bring up an argument in the marketplace about Nigerians and ask them, despite the fact that I'm a Christian, you're a Muslim, you don't have money or you have money, should we be divided? They will tell you, no. I can be sure of that. I stand to be corrected. Our focus is the indivisibility of Nigeria remains sacrosanct. People have been we have had agitations across the country, across the divide, restructure, don't restructure, check this, check that. That will be the focus on this segment of the program. And I have to discuss that with me, Aliyu Adbullahi. Aliyu Adbullahi is a lawyer and a policy analyst. Thanks for joining me on Insight.
Thank you for having me.
I also have Dr. Ademu Eteh, PR consultant and MD Enentis Communications Limited. Thanks for joining me on Insight.
It is my pleasure.
Of late, there have been so much agitations. The government has gone to the trouble of talking to Nigerians, don't hit up the system. Even at that, it is sustained. But some commentators have talked about the fact that they have attributed the seeming backwardness of Nigeria, while we were at a few factors. 1914 amalgamation by Lord Lugard, the political structure, the revenue formula, corruption, poor leadership, and some have also tried to profile some solutions tied around restructuring, balkanization, diversification of the economy, aggressive anti-graft war, good governance, devolution of powers, and the likes. Let us sustain this thing. And one other one I should not forget. Lately, U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Stuart Symington, at a public function said, what Nigeria and Nigeria should be looking at is the diversity of Nigeria. That the strongest point of the United States is the diversity of the United States. And that's what has kept them up together, which underscores that a chain is as strong as the weakest point. So let me start with you, Ademu. What's your argument from this direction?
Like Aristotle said, for any discussion to be intelligible, it must begin with definition of terms. When people are talking about restructuring, what do they really mean? Are we trying to aggregate their thinking and add my own thinking? For some, it is secession. For some, it is devolution of powers to the regions. For some, it's fiscal federalism. For some, it's resource control. But my own take on it is that as Nigeria is now, we know all is not well. We have been making motions without movement, a kind of a Brownian motion, incoherent direction and directionless. Now, there's nothing bad in trying to say, okay, can we come together and discuss and look at ways we can, like, to use a political overtrodden cliche, to move the nation forward. There's nothing wrong in that. But what I see now is what the political elite, who have been the ones that put us where we are the same people now looking at the dissatisfaction of Nigerians with the present situation. They are now cashing in on the present situation to say, to promote their own selfish, narrow and divisive tendencies by clamoring for what they themselves in the first place put us into. What am I talking about? Yes, Nigeria needs restructuring, but that restructuring must favor the common man. The restructuring now, what I talk, is not just about resource control. Any restructuring in this country, the way I understand my take, is that it will be all-encompassing. We need to restructure the social injustice that is around this country. How many governors have been kidnapped? How many ministers have been kidnapped and their cronies? It is a common man. If you go to the economy, what is the common man benefiting? The vulnerable and the poor will have to restructure and bring back justice into our system. That is number one. Number two, restructuring will also involve sweeping reforms in the judiciary. Democracy thrives with the rule of law, where there's equality before the law. But in Nigeria, if I steal your biro now, within 3 months I'm in jail. But if a big man steals billions, you can see the struggle of the present government in fighting corruption. Who has been put behind bars? We must do sweeping judicial reforms, like as it is done in advanced democracies, to be sure that if you commit any crime, the law respects nobody to have its cause. And it's simplified. It's not the one that will have endless implicity. Finally, we have to restructure even our bureaucracy. The National Assembly. Do we need Senate and House of Reps? Do we need, like the governors now, they are emperors unto themselves. So what I'm saying is, yes, we need restructuring, but how are we going to do it? And who will benefit? It should not be the people who put us where we are now playing the ostrich and shouting, oh, we need restructuring, because why? They want resource control. And finally, I know you are itching to pass me on. Now, the Niger Delta, if you are talking about resource control, if you don't have competence in governance, you are replacing national plunderers toward regional plunderers. So we must restructure everything to make it work.
Okay.
Well, he said almost everything.
Okay,
so
I'm not narrowing it down to Nigeria.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see, the thing is, you always have two groups when it comes to whenever a group takes power. You have those ones in power and those ones outside power. Those ones outside power, they always want to actually call for this kind of divisions, whether in order is an attempt, sometimes, mostly, to actually seize power from those ones that are actually occupying it. Secondly, to undermine those ones in power. Now, that's the political aspects. Then those ones in government, they are always trying to cling on to this power. So now, those on outside, they have to bring a new song that will resonate with the people, so that if those one in power actually didn't dance to the tune of that song, they can use it against them when it is time to go to the polling booths. So now that's the political aspect of the agitation you're hearing, especially the resonation of the call for the structure.
Okay.
That doesn't mean there are no genuine concerns on the issue of restructuring. Like he said, there are those, but the major problem of restructuring, the call for restructuring in this country, is, even among those genuine ones, is the lack of a uniform definition of what do the callers of restructuring really wants. Okay. Is it a restructuring on the politics of the country, on the governance of the country, on the economy in the country.
Let me reshape this argument now. Okay, you want to learn?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, that's just like one part of it. And the other part of the argument is, look, it's not about restructuring or the call for succession, like you rightly pointed out. We are stronger when we are united as one indivisible country. And I'm happy to say that a lot of groups, they actually believe in the continuous existence of one Nigeria because about something else. But do you wonder why are they calling for restructuring now? Has there been calls for restructuring some years back when the country, the economy was doing well, when we have oil being sold at $120 per barrel? No, there was no such cause. Even if there was, it was just a very silent voices. But now you have these calls because there is the economy, we know what it is. Of course, we're getting out of a recession, but a lot of people are not happy with the way things are. When people are hungry, they are easily, they can be sold on a narrative. So now the problem is, how do we fix the problems we have in the country, the challenges we have? And the major ones is the problem of leadership, not only at the center, but even regionally and the local levels. Because like Dr. Peter said, even if you restructure, you are moving, because you want to restructure because you don't want to see corruption, for example. You want to have some level of autonomy over what you have in your locality, in your region. But if you don't have the right leadership, what is happening now is still going to continue to happen, even when you have some level of autonomy within your local arrangement.
Okay, now let me move off a bit, because like we have taken us to why must we always agree Nigeria is a secular state? Must we always agitate from religious lines?
Thank you, Mini. You see me smiling at your question.
Because, for instance, Aliyu is a Muslim, Ademu is a Christian, and you're together here. If an attack comes in there, it will not single out Aliyu and say, okay, let me save Aliyu and kill Ademu. We're people. So must we always agitate on religious lines?
Omini, I'll take you some years back. When we were students in the university, I used to be a Marxist-Leninist scholar. And I still believe in some aspects of Marxism up till now. When Marx said that religion is the option of the masses, I kicked against it. It is now that I can understand what Marx was saying. In Nigeria, what the two factors that have promoted our underdevelopment and disunity are, number one, religion. Number two, ethnicity. For God's sake, if you go to any construction site in Abuja here, where laborers are working, carrying blocks and bricks, and people are in the sun sweating, who cares whether you're a Muslim or a Christian? These are people who want to earn a living. If you go to any market today, when you go to price your goods, are you going to be finding out, are you a Christian? Are you a Muslim? You want to get value for your money. Now, I'm here with Aliyu. We'll become friends now. We'll be on this program 1 or 2, 3 times. Have we ever we could come here sometimes, we don't even agree. But then we know that we're talking about what? From positions of knowledge. Political elite, they are to blame for this. They are using the religious leaders to sow seeds of discord. Unfortunately, hunger does not recognize religion. And poverty does not know the language you speak. If you go to states in this country, let me use Lagos as an example. It's a melting pot. The good work done there in Lagos State, are there only Yoruba living in Lagos? Are there only Christians or Muslims living in Lagos? Everybody is enjoying good governance. So I think that it is the political elite who have failed to provide the dividends of democracy to distract people from looking at them and holding them accountable. They now come with their own political deception to begin to say, oh, don't vote for me, he's a Christian. Don't vote for Aliyu, he's a Muslim. For God's sake, what has religion got to do with competence in governance? That is there. Number two, the agitation along ethnic lines. The way Nigeria is, I can tell you, your cousin is married to a Hausa man, his cousin, his sister married to an Igbo man, my own elder sister is married to an Igbo man. So what are we saying? Rather than using a religion and ethnicity to promote, those are good building blocks in state building. They are good because they promote discipline, they promote regimentation, and they help to, like if you go to a mosque or a church now, I mean, who's talking about language there? Who's talking about ethnicity in a religious setting? So these things are meant to bind us and unite us, but the political elite have used it over the years to do what? To cause division so that they could perpetuate themselves in power.
Okay, Aliyu, he has made a strong point. Let me see how you argue this out. He has said political elites. Can the people also be blamed?
Of course, naturally, definitely. It takes two to tango. It takes two to play the game. I mean, if the political elites, I agree with him that they are the architects of inciting the ordinary common man to in the acts of religion, division of religion along religion and ethnic lines, and mostly for political gains. I agree, but you have to be allowed to be used by the political elite for that to happen. And like someone said here, I don't know whether it's you or him, that the hunger, they actually uses the your weakest point, which is hunger, and that is the problem we have in this country. Is about how do we become productive in this country. Lack of production, it's really I think what the cause should have been in this country right now. If everybody can be productive, I mean, then it is difficult for the political elite to come and sell a line to you, whether a religious line or an ethnic line. It's difficult for you to just swallow it or to actually buy it. It won't be sold by the political elite. And now, so that's why the blame has to go two ways. And also, a lot has to do with also how enlightened, educated and informed a society is, from the downtrodden to the elite. I mean, if there is, it doesn't necessarily has to be a formal education. It's just you have to have that level of self-awareness. For example, religion to me, this is something that should be personal to each and every one of us. It should be actually discouraged in all possible ways. I don't mean you shouldn't practice your religion, but it should be second base. I mean, your sense of patriotism as a national of a country should be foremost, should have been the primary concern. There are other things. The God you worship, the person you believe in, I mean, is secondary. I don't want to know what you worship in, who you worship in. Okay. After all, these are things that are supposed to be between you and your maker, or what you believe in. You don't even have to believe in anything for all I care. All I care is what is my relationship with you? How can we, me and you, add value to each other and to our country or to where we are residing? Okay. How do we add value and make our community productive?
So how should the people resist this when they think they are confronted with it?
Now, that's a very good question. When you are confronted with agents of division in the name of political elites, in the name of people that are coming to maybe discord among people living in a particular is to resist it by actually, first you have to be self-aware, you have to get information, you have to media has a lot to do in this kind of in this situation. Other leaders you know, not political leaders this time around, but opinion leaders, even religious leaders, they should actually contribute in trying to make their community see, practice, practice what you teach. And again, when these agents of division come, you try and decipher why they are saying what they are saying, and look at their own nuclear system of whether family. Do you see their kids, for example, when they tell you that so community, they are not your people, they are not your friends, they are not who you should associate with? Do you see their friends or their family, their children in the forefront doing what they are saying? Now that is what should send the first signal that something is wrong here. If you don't see that, why the person who is telling you that Omeni is a Christian and he doesn't like me because I practice, I'm a Muslim, I mean, then I should ask him to come and lead by example. If you want me to fight Omeni, why can't you fight him, for example? Because rightly the person who is telling me may be a Muslim like me, so and a political leader, be in the forefront to fight Omeni, lead by example. If you do that, maybe I can follow you. So people have to be very intelligent when they are dealing with the political elite, with the political class, because at the end of the day, you know, these divisive actions, whether sentiments like religion, like ethnicity, it does not help us. It doesn't help anything.
I met a young man sometime, and I told him, "You work for who?" He told me. He was very agile. They were heading for an operation. And I told him, "The man you're working for, his first son, where is he?" He says, "He's in school." "Where?" "Outside the country." "Are you in school?" "No." If the guy is done with school, what do you think he will do? I think it was a food for thought for him. Today, that young man is in school. Now, the two of you have somehow touched on the moral angle. But let me just give this issue. Though Nigeria's fragmentation predates independence, giving her over 300 ethnic groups, there have been efforts by successive administrations to cement the cracks. How can we cement these cracks?
When you say there have been efforts by previous administrations to cement the crack, I laugh. I don't think so. Number one.
So how can we cement it?
Number one, government has to be at the driving seat of this. Good governance promotes good followership. Like Aliyu said, when the economy was good, was anybody talking about restructuring? I mean, when people are not hungry, you know, they are more rational in their thinking. Now, if you look at previous governments, let's tell ourselves truth. Until this present government is demonstrating a will, I call it a will, to say, okay, sorry, this corruption cannot continue. We must fix the roads. We must do this. In the past, it was like getting into power is for me and myself and my cronies. So when you now, like, all the shouting, all the crying now, political power, when it is seen as opportunity for looting, I want to get there. And when I get there, I want to exclude other people. So I develop the cracks. That's what I call governance competence. We must, as a nation, begin to promote governance competence. What do I mean? Where I am not just emotional, oh, because he's my brother, let me vote for him. Oh, because we are from the same church or same mosque, let me vote for him. That is not the issue. Now, the over 350 ethnic groups in this country, we call them stakeholders in the Nigerian enterprise. What stake are they holding? Government must try to promote a kind of policy of inclusiveness in a political patronage. I don't want to call it political appointment now. Political patronage. Number two, good governance. If I have a road in my place, where I come from is like the uttermost part of the earth. Now they are constructing roads. Since independence, it is now I'm seeing a tar road in my place. So are you going to tell the villagers there that Buhari is a bad man? They won't believe you. because they are seeing the tar road. They are connecting to, what is happening. So I look at good governance. If you want to cement Nigeria, this thing, let us distribute development projects to reach everybody. Let's promote inclusion. Let's be able to. It's not about talking. If you want to appoint people, appoint credible people. Credible people. And good enough, in every place in this country, you have credible men and women. So how come that when it is time to appoint, say, ministers or DGs or executive secretaries or this, we'll go and be talking of maybe the political overlord in your place. We'll go and bring one dummy and go and say to the president to appoint him. And then the guy goes there, is not delivering. Of what use is that non-performing public office holder to his own people? So what I'm saying in essence, one, good policies to promote, good governance. Number two, a lot of enlightenment campaigns. A lot of public enlightenment campaigns. What I see that this government has not been doing well. There have been that enlightenment campaign. You can use the media, you can use public consultants, you can even use third-party endorsement. When people come out and say, look, we are not, like this issue of restructuring and agitation now, I have not seen government response. It is not enough to say, no, don't hit up the policy. It is adequate for you to get thinking, to say, okay, how are we going to counteract this? The man on the street does not even understand the issues. So when we now begin to do a lot of enlightenment campaign to educate the people, to say, look, we are better together, come to think of it. So the way to cement it, good governance, enlightenment campaign, it's even true that all the people who are masquerading as representatives of the people, they masquerade, the dress will be torn in shreds. And the common man will understand that no, we are better together. And this is what we should do to get to our destination.
Okay. The other one, let me pick on this one now.
Okay.
Some said some of the areas to be addressed include power sharing between the federal and the states, as the latter have turned to be mere appendages of the center instead of component units. Can devolution of power work in this?
Well, thank you for that question. And I think this is one thing I believe should also, in addition to what you asked Ademu here, on how to cement these calls of restructuring and succession and so many agitations, is government, the federal government, the government at the center, currently, I believe it's holding much power, too much power, if you ask me. I think they have to actually, there should be some devolution of more powers to the components of the federation. That's, in this case, the states. And maybe we just have to start from somewhere, Omini. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's be truthful. We have to start from somewhere. We may not go the whole long way on the restructuring thing, or how some people are actually looking at this restructuring issue, but we can start from somewhere. For example, there is no need for health, education, to be under the federal government. This should be purely matters of municipal government and, at best, or the state components, not federal governments. You go to United States, you see those things. They are the actual system of government we are copying, we are using. They are not things that you find within the federal government concerns. So that exclusive legislative list that is in our constitution, it has to be trimmed down a bit. Yeah. The federal government should be left to concentrate to matters like banking policies and regulations, communication policies and regulation, defense, the defense of the entire country. These are things that can actually take the concerns, some of the responsibilities of the federal government, maritime, and so on. And by doing that, the federal government has to also come down and trim down its entire system. When I say system, I mean employees, which will greatly affect the entire costs of the kind of expensive and expansive government we're currently running, especially at the center. And now that will also, that in my own opinion, should also include all the 3 tiers, because when you have less to do, then you must have also less legislators, less to legislate, and that means less legislators. And how do you have less legislators? You have 2 choices actually, either to say let's do away with the bicameral houses, or if they don't want to go, because at the end of the day they are the ones to amend this constitution, because all the things we're talking about, for it to work, you have to amend the constitution, because as it is now, the law does not allow all these calls for all the solutions to actually come into place until these legislators amend the law. Now, how can they amend something that will affect them? Now you give them 2 choices: do away with one house, or all of you become part-time legislators, because we can't actually continue to have them if we trim down the exclusive legislative list. Now that will also affect the sharing formula for the federal government. Right now they are collecting more than 50% of whatever earnings that is coming to the federation accounts, leaving the rest to the state and local government coming. Now if the federal government, if you remove some components from the federal government responsibilities and take it down to the states, now that means you also have to look at the sharing formula. What can you do to also empower more for the state in terms of resources coming to the state and local government? And again, now the states also have to look inward. How do we become more self-sufficient in terms of internally generated revenue? No states should be non-viable in Nigeria, but I'm telling you, most states are non-viable. And it's not that because they are inherently non-viable. It is because of the leadership. The leadership refused to have vision to go and find out competitive and comparative advantage of that state. Each person should have that. Not only a state. Competitive and comparative advantage can be done on an individual, a community, a company, and a state. What are you good at that you are better than the next person or the next state?
The other scenario, this by a scholar, he said the body language of the present administration shows that it is unlikely to heed to the restructuring call, but there is a political school which believes that it is time Nigerians took their destiny in their hands by insisting that the nation should not continue to be run the way it is. A holistic approach should equally be adopted in addressing the various contentious issues of national cohesion as against the piecemeal method. Why caution should be watchword to avoid creating more problems in trying to solve the oneness of Nigeria?
Meaning, we should not become like dinosaurs who, for lack of valid response to climatic changes, suffered extinction. The agitations coming, they are real. Some are mischievous, but some are real. Like Aliyu just said, we cannot continue like this. The power has too much power. The center has too much power. In terms of revenue allocation, the center is getting about 52%. State government 26%, local government 20%. Now, the federal government now is saddled with several responsibilities that is finding difficult to perform. It's overloaded. All the billions of naira and dollars they have been discovering, is it not from federal government, parastatals, officials, etc., etc.? There's a lot of money there. I don't think the body language of the present government is against restructuring. I don't think so. APC set up a kind of an ad hoc committee to help us understand what is this restructuring, what is it all about? Because I believe that the current government is a listening government. If the government fails to address this thing holistically, I like that. This is an opportunity for government to actually endear itself to the people. Because for God's sake, governance is about what? Listening to feeling the pulse of the people you are leading. And then carrying on, actualizing their expectations and within a defined legal pathway. The way it is now, like Aliyu said, every state in this country has a lot of resources that can be developed. I mean, we have to get producing. The feeding bottle federalism we are practicing cannot no longer work. Every month, all the governors and the accountant generals and commissioners of finance, they run to Abuja with the empty feeding bottles. Then from federation account, they put it there. Then they go and feed their children. Before month ends, the money is finished. We can no longer continue. I believe that we have a lot of, even agriculture alone. There are countries in the world that depend on agriculture, and they are doing well. So what I'm saying in essence is that, one, the current government is not against call for restructuring. The body language that I see is that, yes, this opportunity to seize the wind so that we can sail faster. Number two, they should grab this opportunity and even tell the pilots it was okay. What can we do now? Let's talk about it. Let's educate the people. Let's chart a way forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it therefore means even the people, the electorate, have a role to play here. Sometime a governor in one of the states said, mind the kind of people you elect into office. Because Aliyu may have the competence,
yes,
but out of sentiments, I vote in Ademu. And at the end, the competence Aliyu had is lost. Ademu will just become a figure and will not deliver. So what do we do in this direction in terms of recruiting leaders into governance as a people? As
thank you, Omini, for that question, because I think that's the major issue, or let me say that's the root cause. You are going back to the root cause of everything that is wrong with this country, Nigeria. The leadership is where we have to start to get it right. And like you said, leaders, we must learn to vote in leaders, to elect leaders based on competency, but based on their track record, based on their capacity and capabilities. Because name more cut down habits. You cannot give what you don't have. Simple. It's that. And where you see places that they have competent leadership, you will see difference with those areas where there is no competent leadership. Like I told you earlier, you have a leader must have a vision. He must have also a strategic plan of what he wants to do with that tenure or term of office that he is elected into. How he intends, what are his objectives, goals, visions to move that place, be him a governor, a president, a local government chairman. How does he intend to transform that for the betterment of those people that actually elected him? So now, to do that, the people, we must learn to look carefully and well. We must not be swayed by sentiments when we go to the polling booths, when we want to vote in leaders. It shouldn't be, this is my brother, we speak the same language, we go to the same mosque. So what if we worship the same God? I mean, is that really, if you are not competent, how can that actually help me? So we have to put sentiments always aside. It doesn't really matter what part of the, maybe taking, for example, a state. It doesn't matter what part of the state you come from. I may come from a minority community in that state. If you come from a minority or you are practicing different religion, I don't care. If you have what it takes to move that state, that means we have to study what you have to tell us how you can do it bit by bit. What are your plans? It's no longer that this is, for example, change, or this is a transformation. You use one word and then people will just follow you. No, it has to be a serious blueprint which you tell me from A to Z how you will transport us, how you will take us on that journey from where we are to the vision and goal where you see that state.
Thank you so much.
Follow up that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You see, we started by saying that all this does not know which side you belong. At the end, we were talking about Nigeria. Well, I've been talking with Dr. Ademu, PR consultant and MD Enentis Communications Limited. Thanks for having your insight.
It's my pleasure.
And also Barrister Aliyu Adbullahi, policy analyst. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Up next on Insights is the media review segment.
Yes, you see and hear of different news occurrences across the country, both at the federal and the state level. The media is saddled with the responsibility of tackling issues relating to news dissemination. And today we would be looking at the media and how well they cover the issues that relate to the state government. Yes, that's our focus on today's segment of the program. And my guest is Anefiok Makole. He is the Special Assistant to the Akwa Ibom State Governor on Media. Welcome to the Media Review segment. I'm Eunice Tokura.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now, basically, it is expected, but one very big problem is that most, if not all, states lack in the area of information management policy. Let's start with your state. Do you have an information management policy?
Well, I believe that every state that values the media should have, the Ministry of Information should have an information management policy, which will be to disseminate the government activities and inform the people well on time and real time. That should be the focus. And Akwa Ibom State government, the Ministry of Information and Strategy is doing quite a lot in that area to educate the public, the populace, on the activities of the government, especially this present government that has done so much that needs to be publicized, and the Akwa Ibom State Minister of Information is doing quite a lot in that regard.
Okay, good to know that. Well, every state is expected to have a policy thrust, and I believe yours does. Is there definitely there should be?
Yeah, when you talk about a policy thrust, are you talking about the? It depends whether we are talking about the agenda of a particular administration.
That's basically the policy thrust of that particular administration. Yes.
Yes. If we are talking about the policy thrust of this particular administration, it was founded on industrialization of the states, wealth creation, job creation, women development and empowerment, and also political inclusion. And that is the agenda of Governor Udom Emmanuel's led administration of Akwa Ibom State.
Okay, your state has one, just as you mentioned, as does many other states.
Yes.
How well informed is the media about this policy thrust? Because the focus here is how, does the state government carry the media along in activities, and how well informed is the media of all of this policy thrusts that you mentioned?
Okay. There is a robust journalistic practice in Akwa Ibom State. For instance, I just want to give you, when you talk about carry the media along, Akwa Ibom State is one of the, I think, the biggest media industry. The biggest media industry is in Akwa Ibom State, because in terms of newspapers, we have over close about more than 100 local tabloids outside the correspondent chapel and the electronic media. In the area of electronic media, we have at least, apart from Eteh and state AKBC, we have like about 4 other private electronic or radio stations. That shows that it's a thriving business in Akwa Ibom. If government did not carry media along, these people will not be there.
Okay,
but again, of all the chapels in Akwa Ibom State, the government gave them at least a bus to each chapel,
including the private.
Apart from those, some of those private just came, just saw about a year ago. But all the federated chapel, those private local tabloids who are formed as a chapel in the NJJ, all have buses to move along to cover government events. Okay,
so this quite shows that the government is carrying the media along in all of
and that. Again, I remember the government, this present government, also the road that leads to NUJ, even and other information paraphernalia of government that was deplorable over the years. You cannot access NTA. But immediately the governor came in, he said that road must be tarred.
And was this highlighted by the media?
Of course. Of course, yes.
Okay, now moving away, speaking generally now, speaking of different states in Nigeria, how would you assess the media's performance at the state level?
Well, I will say it's actually fair. I will say it's fair, because when you talk of media at the state level, don't forget you have the correspondent chapel that covers national media, or especially prints. Then you have like AIT. Most times they are on retainership to state government, maybe Channel, Silverbird. Then you have NTA. In Uyo we have NTA. So those ones, because like the NTA, of course, is a government on federal government owned station, definitely will cover the government's events and all others. Then we also have the prints, where you have the gamut of locally produced tabloid. So, and all these help in building, in disseminating of information about government policy, trusts, and what government is doing at the state level.
Okay, so when you say that the performance of the media is fair, that means there's a lot of room for improvement. That means they could actually do better. What are those areas that you feel the media hasn't really touched?
Okay. First, I look at media from 2 or 3 prisms. Apart from the electronic, I look at the print, and also even the social media we call citizen journalism. Then when you look at the media from those prisms, you now discover that the locally produced tabloids depends on ownership structure, also calls who pays the piper. So those ones will actually work to it may work to the detriment of the state, no matter what the state government does. But there are others that are also fair to the state government, irrespective of who is sponsoring who. Then you also look at the correspondent of national papers. Sometimes you pick a newspaper, you discover that there is no news from a particular state, from a particular paper for like 3, 4, 5 days. Does it mean that that journalist or a correspondent did not work for 3 days, did not file stories? That goes back to show to you that the gate man, who is the editor, the gatekeeper, determines what news he wants to bring in.
What comes in and what goes out.
Yes. So, and he determines what is news. So no matter what the correspondent does at the state level, no matter the kind of report it, if the editor says this story cannot go, and it will not go. So you see that the national, that at that particular time, that newspaper will have not reported that state, maybe for sometimes for 1 week. So that is it. Of course, I also know that they are also fighting for space, because a newspaper that covers the whole country, they have other areas, sectors, economic sectors, aviation, business, banking, a lot of crime and all that. So they will also be fighting for space. Yeah. So that is it. So it is a big challenge also for newspapers too, to cover effectively, cover the states effectively, as every state government will want to be covered.
Okay, it appears that you've been placing emphasis on newspapers. Does it mean that the broadcasts and
no, the broadcasts are doing quite fine. The NTA Uyo is doing quite fine. The Akwa Ibom State Broadcasting Corporation, AKBC, is doing quite fine. The electronic, the radio, the private broadcast station, the radio, are also doing quite fine in Akwa Ibom, because they report interviews, analysis, news analysis and all that. They are doing quite fine.
Okay. Now, speaking of information management, how is information managed by the media from the state to federal level?
Well, from
very quickly, because we're rounding off.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, that is specifically the job of the Ministry of Information and also the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor. They handle that. That is not my bit. So
okay. So as it is, you're okay. All right, then. It's been wonderful speaking with you. Thank you very much for coming. Yes, I've been talking with Aniefiok Macaulay, the Special Assistant to the Akwa Ibom State Governor on media matters. And we've been talking about how well the media has been faring at the state level. That's about it for the Media Review segment. Do stay tuned.
It's been a wonderful ride. All that begins well ends well, right?
Yes, they say all is well that ends well. And sure, today's episode surely ends well. We've been talking about, on the Media Review segment specifically, we talked about the media and what happens at the state level. And yes, my guests spoke so well about the topic. Till next week, join us again. But don't forget to follow on Twitter at OOMiniNTA and at Eunice Tokura to be part of the program. Thank you for watching.
Governance belongs to the people, and if you don't take governance to those who desire it the most, the impact will not be felt. Whatever mandate you have, whether elected, appointed, ensure that the people are properly served. That's about that on Inside today. Thanks for watching. On behalf of all of us, be always our guest. Bye-bye.